Hey, what's up, guys? Smaldor here, and we're going to be doing a small thoughts video on Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Ignore the fact that this logo has a little bit of a green hue. I don't know. And just happens to be I'm wearing my college shirt, so it's got a little bit of green screen. My bad. If it's too staticky. Anyways, I completed this game yesterday. I beat the game on Jedi Grandmaster, which is the hardest possible difficulty in the game. That means the enemies are the most aggressive. There is the shortest amount of time for parries. You have the smallest parry window, and monsters do the most possible damage. And I'm not sure if they actually have more health or not, but I believe they do. Don't quote me on that. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the game. Also, moving forward, I'm actually going to stop rating games with a score. I'm just not going to score games. I'm just going to be like, I like this game, I didn't like this game, this is why I like it, this is why I don't like it. If you like this, I'll recommend it, that kind of... So I'm going to be doing moving forward. So Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is the first single-player Star Wars game in almost a decade. Or about a decade. It's been a long time. When was the last one? I believe was Force Unleashed 2. Might have been the last one. That was in 2010. Respawn Entertainment, guys behind the Titanfall series, or Apex Legends, as the beginning of this year. It's 2019 currently. This game was great. It was absolutely great for what it is. This is a third-person action game. Action. It's not an RPG. However, it is very story-focused. It is a non-linear game. There is a lot of exploration, there's a lot of lore, and one of the most important things, too, to remember is this game is canon in the Star Wars universe. That means the stories in this game is canon to coincide with the movies, Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance, The Mandalorian, anything, that's whatever is considered canon these days. That's awesome. So there's a lot of cool stuff. They had liberties to introduce to the franchise, which we might now also see in future Star Wars installments in movies, shows, future games. We'll see. I first want to talk about a few of the things that the game does not do well, or things that I would have liked to have seen that was missing. So basically the negatives. For me, some of the biggest negatives would be customization in terms of depth. There is a lack of an RPG element that is generally present in a lot of action games these days, even if it is not touted as an RPG. The skill tree, for example, is extremely basic. It is a 3-prong tree: Force, Survival, and lightsaber combat. And basically all it is just the most basic things. Foresight is you get more force, you have more force energy, which is like a mana bar. You just get more of that. Your force abilities can start to do a little more things, and you have a few force abilities throughout the game. Lightsaber things, you get a couple new skills, you do a little bit more damage. But that's about it. And survival, you have more health, and your stims heal for more. Basically, it's a little bit more than that, but that's generally the gist of it. Very simple. There is no loot in the game per se. The only kind of loot in the game at all is cosmetics, which could be cool. But most of them suck, in my opinion. So you have you can customize the look of BD-1, which is the most adorable droid. You can customize Cal's poncho and his regular suit, the outfit that he would have underneath the poncho, if that's underneath it, as well as the ship that your characters you utilize to fly between planets. And then, of course, there's the lightsaber customization. There is a ton of customization in terms of with the lightsaber, but it's all cosmetic, man. I messed around with it a little bit, and then I realized, like, what's the point? There's no stats, literally nothing. you're customizing the hilt of the lightsaber, which is this tiny little thing on the screen that you never really get to see. There's really no point. You can change the colors a little bit. Actually, towards the later half of the game, spoiler, you actually can customize the color drastically. I'm not gonna do too much spoiler in the game, but towards the later end of the game, you're able to fully customize the color, more or less, or much more than you can throughout the game normally. But what's the point? For me, from a gameplay perspective, there's really no point. I would have liked stats, like maybe change the emitter and it does a little more damage. Change the I forget what they call the things. Just like 6 or 7 different things you can change, swap out and stuff. Like maybe attack speed, damage. Maybe you have an ability to crit, you better guarding. You know, something they could do. That would be really, really cool. I would have also liked if there was consumable items in the game. I mean, it could just be small things like extra heals, or, you know, maybe a minor defensive buff, or an attack buff, speed movement buff, that kind of thing would be nice. Or maybe you would get a larger parry window for attacks. Some consumables like that would have been kind of nice. One thing that I would have really liked, and I actually don't know if this is canon anymore. However, this was in some of the older extended universe stuff, which would be lightsaber forms. Excuse me. And that could have been something they could have added without any RPG stuff, really. Depending on what form you were in, would depend on your attack style. Maybe you would do different swings. Maybe if you were doing one form, you would focus heavy on downward slashing attacks. So that'd be really good against single targets. Maybe another form would focus a lot on sweeping strikes for AoE. Maybe you'd do a little bit less damage. Maybe one would focus more on defense. And I know there was various forms in the old extended universe. I don't know if it is canon, but they could have made it canon. That would have been really cool. Something kind of like how with Neo, right? Neo has these different, you have low, mid, and high stance for all your weapons. That would have been something they could have drawn upon in this game, and that would have been awesome. Aside from these things, there's not really many other bad things about the game, I have to say. And these things, I talk about them, but they're still pretty minor, really. The only other thing I can think of is sometimes the dodging and the rolling felt a little clunky to me, but because how, like, let's say in Dark Souls, for example, when you dodge, you just hit the one button and you're rolling. In this game, in Fallen Order, you have to tap the button twice to roll. Otherwise, if you tap it once, you just do kind of like a quick dodge. Maybe something more similar to like Bloodborne kind of has it a little bit. So it felt a little weird if I needed to do a full roll, I had to press the button twice. Which, I mean, for a lot of people, I'm sure that's a minor thing, but for me, that was a little bit of an annoyance. But other than that, I mean, I'm ready to talk about the stuff that I loved about the game. And things that you can think about too, you know, if this is a game you wanted to pick up, or you're not sure about it. This game has incredible storytelling. This game has incredible world building. This game has excellent exploration. The characters, the voice acting, the pacing of this game is incredible. That's one thing I want to talk about too right now, like the pacing. Okay, so the game has really tight combat, which is awesome. Certain enemies, you know, it's really gonna, especially playing on the hardest difficulty, it's gonna force the player to utilize all the tools you have to be able to defeat certain encounters, whether that's one mob or, you know, a group. Like you go into a room and there's a lot of mobs. You can stop time. You can force push. Or you know, if you have the skill, you can do mass push, or you have pull or mass pull. And then throw your lightsaber. It's like there's all sorts of unique things that you can do. It's really, really awesome. Well, like you can be doing that and that, and then after you've been doing that for a while, and I didn't expect this in the game, it's puzzle time. So I was first expecting this game to basically be a sci-fi Dark Souls set with a Star Wars skin, more or less. Maybe a little more Sekiro style, which this definitely is more Sekiro than Dark Souls, for sure. But there's a lot of like Uncharted Tomb Raider-ness to the game, which is really, really cool. There's a lot of puzzles in the game, and I like that. I was not expecting it, and I really, really like it. And of course, the more I think about it, I'm like, that makes sense. A lot of the older single-player Star Wars games had puzzles with your force abilities, push, pull, and things about moving blocks and things like that. I really, really enjoyed it. And then, it's like you're doing a lot of action, a lot of fighting, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now it's time for a break. Let's go ahead and, it's puzzle time. Finish puzzle time. Okay, now it's time for story time. Finish story time, rinse, repeat. Now, okay, a lot of combat. Maybe another puzzle story, It was awesome. I really love the pacing of the game. There was never a dull moment in the game. For me. Everything is just great. Pretty much, like, if I did have to rate the game, though I said I wasn't going to do any kind of rating, but if I'm rating, like, the elements, sound design in this game is phenomenal. Everything felt like it had impact. It was really weighted well. All the hits that you give and take, the effects of, like, blasters and things like that. I really felt like I was playing like a Star Wars movie, honestly. The game, it was incredible. The music as well is so nice. The Star Wars, there's actually not a lot of like traditional Star Wars music like that's in the game. There is a little bit, there is some, and it's used nicely. But there's a lot of Star Wars-esque music that you hear it and you're like, that totally fits in the Star Wars universe, in the Star Wars realm, and it's like, yes, it just all in all, like I said, this game, if you are a fan of Star Wars, highly recommend this game. If you are a fan of games like Dark Souls, Sekiro, Surge, Neo, recommend this game. If you are a fan of third-person action games, I recommend this game. If you are a fan of any game that has excellent storytelling, excellent characters, very well voice acted, great pacing, highly recommend this game. Basically, the only way I wouldn't recommend this game is if you just hate third-person games, you hate action games, you hate Star Wars. Otherwise, this game, in my opinion, is a must-buy. Please play this game. I cannot wait for a sequel. All I ask in a sequel for this game from Respawn is to add in a little bit more depth. A little bit more depth. Lightsaber stances or forms, maybe consumable items. Allow the customization of the lightsaber to matter. One thing that I wanted to touch on too, with the customization with the looks of Cal. You can change your poncho colors, and you can change the colors of his outfit without the poncho. If you're going to put those things in the game, one, nobody likes the poncho, and two, okay, maybe some people like the poncho. Give me some other outfits. Give me some other outfits that are like well known in the Star Wars thing, especially if I'm playing. I know this game is canon, but this is still a game where we want a power trip, right? Let me have a Jedi robe. Alright. Smaldor's out. Catch you next on the next Thoughts video. Peace.